everybody. Welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast. I am your host, Maxine, and we're on episode 151. Yes. Let's begin by discussing Tinder Swindler. Tinder Swindler. Am I saying it correct? Swindler. Go watch it if you haven't watched it yet. It just been released on Netflix, and it is a documentary of these two women who have been swindled by the same man, and they came forward to the press discussing their experience with him and just what took place. And apparently and allegedly, I gotta say that he has swindled more than just those two women. It's several other women as well over a period of 10 years. This man here, his name is, or the name that he gave them is Simon LeVay. And he is Israeli. He is allegedly a billionaire's son, or that's what he alleges to these women. And come to find out towards the end of the documentary that my friend was a lie. Now, there's a lot of interesting facts about this case here. It's first off, I feel like the red flag should have been his height. I'm sorry. Hello? The red flag should have been his height. I find it very suspicious when men who are 5'5" and under. He had to have been 5'5", the tallest. I swear he had to have been. When men who are that height and they are very flashy with their money, with their appearance, and luxurious item this, luxurious item that, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. Remember the African guy who was trying to hit on me a while ago? And what turned me off about him was the fact that he kept on referring to the car that he was currently driving at that time. I remember he was saying that, and this was like a good minute ago. And he was saying how the car that he's driving at the moment is not really his car. His real car is at the shop. And the car that he was driving at the moment was this Caravan, and it was kind of beat up. And so he kept on bringing that part up. Like, hey, I promise you it's not my car. Like, this is not my car. My real car, my BMW Series X9 II. Oh, that's my car, but it's in the shop right now. And what I was so turned off by was, one, that. Why are you talking to me about your car? What? I don't give a fuck about your car. What are we talking about? Like, no one even brought up your car. I'm not even in your car. Like, ew, what are we talking about? Yeah, I did notice your car, but like, okay, like, I don't know. And it really speaks to the caliber of who he was and the caliber of women who he may have dated in the past. And maybe that caliber is so fixated on material goods, just what looks right, appearance, rather than your inner core, rather than your character. Hey, you guys know me. I really care about someone's character. I care about your heart. I care about just your characteristics. Like, who are you as a person? If your identity is so wrapped into your materialistic ideals of beauty and, the amount of money in your account, I'm instantly unimpressed. The conversation is not going anywhere. And I remember he was trying to talk to me, and I'm like, why he keeps on talking about his car? And so he then goes on to just kind of give me a pitch of the amount of money that he makes. And he's a barber. And he was saying how he's basically an entrepreneur. He makes his own hours and he does house calls. And he just makes more money doing house calls. And he was telling me specifically how much he makes. Mind you, not one time am I asking him that, like, not one time am I asking him, hey, how much do you make with house calls? Hey, how much do you make a year with your barber job? Like, it's just so funny to me. And you know how there's a quote out there that says, if you want to know who someone is, just listen. Something like that. Like, basically, you don't have to ask any questions. Just listen to what someone says. Listen to their words, and you'll be able to identify who they are. Like, you'll be able to identify and just give a judgment of their characteristics, what they deem to be important, etc. And when he kept on bringing up money, his car, his real car being in the shop, you know, his BMW Series XN50 is in the shop. That's why he's driving this beat up Caravan right now. And the amount of money he makes with the house call jobs that he does. And just last week he made a little over $1,500. It tells me a lot about your character. And it tells me you don't really give a fuck about your character. You care more about material goods. And all of this is said in the package of a little man. I'm a little man. He was a little guy. He's a little guy. He had to have been no more than 5'5", just like the guy from Tinder Swindler. Okay? And he's African, so it's already a problem. I haven't talked shit about Africans on this podcast in a minute. Do you miss it? No, but like, that is a fucking factor. I don't know what type of African he was, but African nonetheless. Okay? African nonetheless. And so that was a red flag, right? So when I was watching this documentary, that reminded me of that guy. And the fact that, yeah, they're the same height. And he was so quick to wear so many designer goods and talk about it to sound impressive. And I feel like the caliber of women that he went for would have been, or was actually, they were impressed by that. They were impressed by him just flushing out cash, him suddenly saying, hey, I gotta make a run to Russia. This is my last night here. Can you hop on the jet with me? I want to spend more time with you. First of all, oh my God, there were so many red flags here. But I'm not saying this in judgment of those women, because I kind of been there, and I'll get to my story, a whole different story where I dated a con artist and didn't realize he was a con artist until I ended things. I'm like, oh shit. So we'll get to that story. But let's go back to, Tinder Swindler. This man, he meets his women on Tinder, literally Tinder, the dating app. And another side note, don't go on these look, yes, there are these moments where you luck out and you meet someone who is genuine and who is who they say they are, and an actual loving relationship is blossomed from this. I had a previous coworker who met her husband on Tinder, literally on Tinder, and they are happily married. I don't know right now, but I know at that point in time they were married and they had kids. Like, there are success stories, but it's not always. It's not always. That is that 0.182%. Okay? And for these women to go on these websites, these apps, in hopes of finding their Prince Charming, it's already, you're at a deficit. Already you're met with a lot of losers, a lot of people who are putting on a persona, trying to appear as if they're this genuine character when they're really con artists. And not all of them are con artists, right? But some of them are just like ain't shit dudes, right? So it's just a lot of different factors. So just don't go on Tinder. What else? What other app? Hinge. Don't. Child, no. Thank God for that being over. But anyway, Tinder. So he's on Tinder. He is particularly looking for women who seem to be of a type of bracket, right? Who are travelers, who wear designer clothing, who just look a certain aesthetic. And I feel like that was his target. I feel like that was his way to just scheme on these women because, hey, that type of woman right there is going to be impressed by my jet. Is going to be impressed by the fancy hotels that I reside in. So anyway, he meets one of the girls on Tinder, and they were in the same city at the time, but apparently he had a flight to catch the following day, and he could only meet right here, right now, basically. And so he says to her, hey, I'm leaving to I don't know if it was Russia, but it was like in those areas. Like this documentary is based in like Germany, Lisbon, that was called, like that whole area. It's very interesting. And he's an Israeli man. And so he tells her, hey, I'm going to be out. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going on a business trip tomorrow. I would love to meet with you right now, in a few hours. Can you come meet with me? And that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And I'm going to say why that's a red flag. It's a red flag because you have to be considerate of other people's time. You really do. And for him to so instantly be so inconsiderate of this woman of his interest's time is already a turnoff. Like, so what? Like, it has you having to go to a business meeting to the next day has nothing to do with me and my time. Just because you have a whole business meeting that you're flying out to should not make me reconsider whatever plans I had for myself for that night and now just completely override those plans because, oh, you gotta go to Switzerland tomorrow. Fuck Switzerland, because that has nothing to do with me. And I think that is so inconsiderate and rude to just put that out there, especially as the first few messages on Tinder. And the mistake that she made was accepting it. Like, okay, well, yeah, we can, absolutely. I'm free. I'm free. And, excuse me, I think this is a big mistake. Big mistake. Huge. Because I remember all the times I instantly and always said yes to Boston Bay. Every time he was free, and he would always give me one of those type of messages like, oh, I'm only free right here, right now type of thing. Like, nigga, we live 7 minutes away. You could make time for me. But I always said yes to him because at that time, I felt like, well, I have no choice. I have no choice but to say yes to him because other than that, I won't see him for the next 2 weeks. And again, we lived 7 minutes away from each other. When I was in Boston, living in Dorchester, he lived in Dorchester at the time. And he was like legit a quick 7-minute drive from my house. But every time he was free, I had to have been free too, or I wouldn't see him for the next 2 weeks. And I would barely talk to him. It's a touch and go. It was a mess. But yes, so that's why I always said yes at the time, because I fell for that trap. Like, I was like, well, I got to see him, or, well, there's no other time for me to see him, so let me just go ahead and acquiesce. And that is just a big no-no because, again, you want someone who considers your time, who considers you as a human being, right? As someone with a life of their own, of businesses of their own, of hobbies of their own, of relationships of their own. And when you don't do that, when you don't even care to ask, hey, are you available? Like, first ask me. And the thing is, here's the thing with me, especially me at that time, a bitch was always free, right? Like, I was always available, beck and call, because I just like being available for people. And at that time, I didn't have like a hectic schedule. I still had a full-time job. But it's not like I had like several businesses running and I was doing multiple things out. No, like I went to work, I went home, and that was it. So anytime he was available, I was always available. So it was easy for me to say yes. Now, when that is done so easily, I feel like men like that will take advantage and would think, oh, she's on my dick. She's always free for me. She's always available. Even now, like I think about my life now, right? The Maxine now from the Maxine then. I would say I'm a little bit more busy now. Like I'm busier now than I am then. And I appreciate my man now for always asking me, like, hey, are you free this weekend, or whatever. It's nice. But then again, like the way that I am, like, yes, I'm always free for you. What are you talking about? Like, don't even ask me. But the asking is what's important. That is the point what I'm making here. Like, I feel like naturally, yes, you make time for what you make time for, who you want to make time for, and it's nice when even in your busyness you can still carve out time for your loved one. Now, in times when you are busy, it's okay to still say, hey, I would love to, but I'm tied up with X, Y, and Z. How about we do it on another day, right? That is nice. And for this guy here on Tinder Swindler, what a fucking name. It's so hard for people like me who struggles with these certain letters. But anyway, he just instantly came out the gate with, it's my time or no time at all. And I wonder if the woman would have said, no, that's not going to work for me. Like, no, I can't just be up and ready in 2 hours. And even if she was free, even if she had nothing planned that night, no, nigga, you're going to wait. You're going to ask me, hey, how about Friday? You want to hang out on Friday? That's what you're supposed to do. You can't just expect someone to just be available for you and you're instantly just like at their beck and call. Like, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's fair. And I think that's actually very immature. So that's already a red flag. Him being less than 5'5" is the biggest red flag. Okay. Hence the story that I said a moment ago. I just think those key points, like I know we like to, don't judge a book by its cover. Judge the book. Judge the fucking book. Sometimes the book needs to be, that's why you have a cover, right? That's why you have books. That's why you have book covers. That's why you have book covers, right? Oh, this book looks good. Ooh, I like the cover. I like the color. I like the texture of the book. And then you go to the back and you read the back of it. It's like, okay, I like the description of it. Okay, it looks good. So judge the book. Yes, you can. I hate that fucking that saying. Like, I think it's so inaccurate most times because we're all judging. We're all judging people by their cover. And I think you should do that for your protection, for the most part. Now, I think ultimately, though, naturally you judge people on their cover, but give people the grace to kind of prove who they are to you. Like, oh, this person is a stand-up person, or, oh, this person is a really crappy ass person. Got it. Like, give people a chance to kind of be who they are, right? And just like I said a moment ago, when you let people just talk, you get to know who they are, what they're about. And this guy, this Tinder Swindler, is a con artist. He's a con artist, but many of these women who he conned were so enamored with the bright lights, the private jets, just all the fancy stuff. And I just think that was his purpose, right? That was his target audience. Now, if he would have gotten with a woman like me, it wouldn't have been a chance in hell, right? It wouldn't have even been like, nigga, what the fuck? I don't give a fuck. Like, there's a part in the document, yo, and maybe I'm heartless. Let me start. Maybe I'm heartless because my empathy could only go so far for people, especially strangers. Like, I don't even fucking know you, and you're less than 5'5"? Huh? Like, the height thing is a real big deal to me. But anyway, there's a part in the documentary, right, where he's like, it's a couple of days, it's like probably a good 2 weeks of him texting consistently with one of the girls, and he's like saying, oh, I miss you, I really had a great time with you, you know, I could really see a future with, like, just kind of love bombing them, just going in. And instantly, as women, and this is someone who I could understand this feeling as a woman, right? This like, oh my gosh, you know, I just met someone and I think this is it, you guys. Like, this is the guy, and it's exciting, and he's consistent. It's good mornings, good nights. It's how's your day? It's all these amazing feelings, and ooh, nice. And then boom, he hits you. He hits you with, oh, not physically. Let me just make that clear. He didn't hit any of them, but boom, he hits them on the WhatsApp app and says, oh my gosh, blood, Peter. And Peter is this bodyguard of his. Like, first of all, again, another red flag. What the fuck? You have a bodyguard? And that was his spiel. Like, he is the son of a billionaire, and he literally put this in his Tinder bio. And as the son of a billionaire, he has enemies. He has people out for him, and he is also a part owner or just worker of his alleged family's diamond business, which we learned that he's not even a part of this family at all. Anyway, he has his bodyguard named Peter, who's with him at all times, because that's his bodyguard, right? So now he sends his message to one of the girls and says, Peter, blood. And he starts bombing her with pictures of Peter in the ambulance, and he's in the ambulance as well. Peter has blood streaming down his face, and he's looking distraught, like, you know, someone really attacked him. And he's also, and the thing about their communication, he sends videos, he sends pictures, and he's sending these proof documents to prove what he's saying, right? To make him sound legit. So he's sending a video that seems to be live, which is another damn, like, this nigga is a psychopath. Let me make sure I get the right person, because I always get the psychopath and sociopath. So psychopath is violent socially, so he wasn't violent physically necessarily. So yes, he was a sociopath. And a sociopath is someone living with an antisocial personality disorder. People with the condition might seem charming and charismatic at first, at least on the surface, but they generally find it difficult to understand other people's feelings. So, and ultimately he's a manipulator, right? He is someone who purposely does things for his benefit, and he manipulates the feelings and the thoughts of others. So he sends his picture and like this live video that he records, or he sends a video. It's not like him live, but it looks like he's live, or that he just filmed it, right? So he sends this video of him literally in the ambulance with Peter, his bodyguard, and he's saying, oh my gosh, we just got attacked. They were coming after me, but Peter thankfully was there and got the grunt of the attack, and we're in the ambulance, you know. So he's doing this on purpose, right? What's the purpose, you may ask? To build this emotional pull towards his women, or from his women, from this one woman in particular. But we later find out he's doing it to multiple women at different points. And so this one woman, she's saying how she's receiving these messages from Peter, or from, what's his name, Scott? And Scott, what's his name? Scott Lviv. Let me make sure. Hold on. Let me make sure what's his name. If I say a wrong name. His name is, oh my gosh, what is his fucking name? Simon, not Scott. Sorry. Simon Lviv, that's his name. That's the alleged name that he gives them. And so he's saying, oh, you know, yeah, I got attacked, yeah. The women, of course, they're going to feel empathetic, they're worried, they're panicked, and they want to help their lover, right? The man who's been texting them, good morning, good night, I love you, I miss you, I see a future with you, I want you to have my babies. They're seeing their man in attack, right? They're seeing him distraught and they want to take care of him. So boom, that was his tool. That was his way of getting them pulled into him more and more. That was his manipulation tactic. My God, today, like, oh, look at the sociopath. Like, look at that. When I tell you it's so important to control your emotions or be the master of your emotions and not let your emotions control you, this is a prime example of that. Because of these women, of course, already naturally liking him and thinking about him a lot, and it's a long distance situation, and they get this message from him, they're going to feel this I want to protect him, right? I want to be this mama bear towards my man. He's in danger. Oh my God, what can I do? Call me when you get a chance. So this panic is coming aboard these women. And so he then, shortly after, Simon tells them, what does he say? He's like, hey, because of this attack and my enemy's getting closer to me, my bank account is frozen and my credit card usage, I shouldn't be using them because they could track where I'm at with my credit card usage. And I, of course, don't want them to know where I'm at. They found me just a few days ago, which is why I sent you that video to prove that they got close to me and they attacked me because they were able to find my address through my credit card usage. So he's creating this story that sounds to be correct, right? It sounds like it makes sense. You just told me of this attack that happened, and now you can't use your credit cards because you can't track someone's address and location with your credit card, right? Like, so, and then this man has already created this persona of, I know big people, I'm a son of a billionaire, I have this like really big successful diamond business, and it sounds legitimate, it really does. And to already have been liking this guy, these women are now just instantly convinced, like, okay, like, yeah, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Like, what is it? So he instantly starts asking, I need you to get this for me. Like, I need you to get me $500 here or $1,500 there. And he'll just start asking them instantly, back to back, for money. And he would still give the excuse of he can't use his funds because of these enemies, quote unquote, that he has. And so these women who are in love with him and who care for him and who had a great time with him, they see it as an opportunity to really show up and be there for their man. And so they are able to take out loans, quick loans, because they may have already ran through the money that they had on their own. And so now they're taking out quick loans to give to this man. And he is taking their money and, of course, continuing this lavish, luxurious lifestyle. And I feel like that's another red flag too, right? Like, I think instantly when you're seeing someone and their next set of questions, or not even set of questions, their next set of statements or comments, just a continuation in conversation, is this like drastic thing that happened in their life. And because of this drastic thing, now I am unable to support myself in this life and I need your help, and don't you love me? Right? I think that's a big ass red flag because, one, we just met 2 weeks ago. Look, can we start the fuck there? We just met 2 weeks ago. How are you just bum rushing me with so much of this like trauma? And I feel like, yes, that's a red flag, but I feel like it's just a way to continue to manipulate the woman of your choice, right? So I just think that's a time, right? Like, I don't think instantly, and it's one thing to bond over trauma, right? Like, oh, we both been through abuse and let's talk about that, right? But to start off pretty like fairy tale with these women, and then suddenly, oh my gosh, my life as I know it is over. I need you to help me. Where are your friends? Before you met me, what would you have done? You know what I mean? Like, where are your brothers? Where's your parents? Your billionaire parents, right? Because you say you're the son of a billionaire. How come you can't ask your billionaire dad, hey, dad, I need you to please lend me something? Like, that's not, like, girl. I feel like in that, and again, I'm not judging these women because I'm going to get into the story of how this could have happened to me years ago in my 20s. Oh my God, today. But I feel like in these moments, common sense has to kick in. Right? Like, I feel like in these moments, common sense has to be like, hold on, girl. What he say? He said he's a billionaire son, and he's asking you for money after 2 weeks of knowing him? Girl, bye. Like, girl, bye. So anyway, okay. Let's get into, keep on teasing you guys. Let's get into the one experience in my life when I dated a con artist. And I didn't know he was a con artist until after we dated. I could laugh about it now, but my God, that embarrassment was thick back then. So this happened in my early 20s, like fresh out of a relationship that I was in for a year, and this is still fresh out of undergrad and fresh into my career now of education. So I'm still, and I say all that to say, like, to build the context, because at a certain point in your life, you are more naive, right? Like, me in my early 20s is obviously more naive than me in my early 30s. And, like, the me now wouldn't have fell for the shit that he tried. But even me back then, I didn't fall for it, like, ultimately, because what's great about being someone who is an overthinker, like, there's a lot of, like, qualms about being an overthinker. Oh, you think too much, like, you know, you think yourself down into a whole anxiety pool, and that's what happens to me sometimes, but I've been getting better. But anyway, what's great about being an overthinker is that you get to spot out the bullshit. You get to smell the bullshit, and you get to realize, hey, this doesn't sound or feel right. Like, something is a little off here, and I want out. Yeah. So I met this guy. Where did I meet him? I met him at a coffee shop. Yeah, so this was obviously when I was in Boston, and I met him at a coffee shop. This was during a time when I was dating Leprechaun Bay. And I was at this coffee shop because I would frequently go there because it was this cute spot in Dudley Square. If you guys, any Boston listeners, you know what Dudley Square is, which is basically, it's at that point in time, that's when it was being gentrified into this more of a welcoming space. Because growing up, Dudley was like, you don't want to stay in Dudley. Like, there would be shots there. There would be just crackheads walking around. And Dudley Square was where the trains were, and like the train stop, and like the Silver Line, which is the name of one of the trains in Boston. And the bus route would be over there as well. But anyway, at this point in time, the Dudley Square was being gentrified, and there was one shop in particular, I forgot the name of it, but it was one of the shops that was more aesthetically pleasing. It felt welcoming. It felt white. Okay, let me just put it felt white, and it felt right. I felt safe inside. But as soon as you walk out, run to your car and drive home. But yeah, it really did felt white. And I was met with white employees, like, that's why. And like the dishes at the coffee, it was like a coffee bistro. They had like small like foods, like pastry dishes and little pasta, little situation. Anyway, so I was there, and I was there because I was studying, or I was just on my computer, and it was just a cute place to be. I wasn't checking for anyone necessarily because, again, I was in a relationship at the time with Leprechaun Babe. So I'm in there, and this guy walks in, and for the life of me, I was trying to remember his name because I was preparing to talk about this on this episode, right? But I can't remember his name. You know how you just suppress certain memories? This was one of those memories. I'm just like, damn, I can't believe I went through that. But anyway, I remember his name being like an old school name. So I know it wasn't Clarence, but I'm just going to give him that name, Clarence, because I just can't remember what it could have been. And Clarence is like an example of an old school name. So anyway, Clarence, let's call him Clarence. Clarence walks in, and instantly I look at him, he looks at me, chemistry. Like, oh my gosh, he was handsome. And he has a beautiful smile. And so he walked towards me, and I'm sitting in my little bistro section, trying to look cute. And he starts talking to me. I think he just says a joke or something. And I was so into it because, wow, not only are you attractive, but, you're charismatic. You made me laugh in this moment. It just felt like a nice little moment. We didn't exchange names or numbers in that moment. He just said a few words to me. I think he went to the front and ordered something, and he left. So I finally packed up my things I want to say a good 30 minutes later, because I was already there for a little while, and it was already time for me to head out and head back home. So I head back to my car. I'm walking towards my car, and I hear someone saying something like towards me in my direction. And it was Clarence. He said something to me, and he's like, oh, are you going in your car by yourself? I don't know what he said. It was so long ago, y'all. But anyway, he was trying to like pick me up, right? Not literally, but he was trying to pick me up. And he, I think we did exchange numbers at that time. Oh my God, I'm trying to remember. And I'm just like, oh, okay, sure. We can change, just keep it in light. Cause at that point in time, let me be honest with y'all. At that point in time, my relationship with Leprechaun Bay was on the outs. Like, it was probably a good month before it actually ended. And I guess I knew it subconsciously, right? Maybe I knew that subconsciously, which is why I did exchange my number with this guy, with Clarence. Anyway, Clarence started texting me that same day. And I said to him, hey, I just want to be honest with you. I am in a relationship, so I just want to make sure we keep things platonic. He was instantly upset. He was like, all right, well, F you. He said something crazy to me. It was like, all right, well, ain't nobody tripping. Like, that type of stuff. He didn't swear at me, but he was like, ain't nobody tripping. Like, just trying to play it off. Like, nigga, you are tripping. Can we start there? You are tripping. Stop. I hate when niggas do that. Like, stop. You wanted this. You can't have it. Just chuck up the deuces and go. The fuck? Like when that African guy I was just telling y'all about, the one who had a caravan but was like saying to me, I really have a BMW Series XM. Okay. And I told him, hey, I'm not interested. He's like, well, what you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm not interested in you like that. Really? Because you just called me baby in the last text. You just kept calling me beautiful in the last text. But you're not interested? Okay, got it. Like, nigga, shut the fuck up. Shut up. It's like, can we stop? Anyway, let me continue. That just triggers me. I hate it. Be a fucking man. Anyway, Clarence, get back to Clarence. So I said it to Clarence. He plays it off, right? Okay. Me and Leprechaun Babe break up again, like I said, shortly after. And throughout this time, I'm still thinking about Clarence. Like, Clarence is still on my mind because Clarence, like, he just instantly got my attention, and I just felt like, again, I'm early 20s. Let me give y'all again. I'm in my early 20s, so I'm instantly thinking, oh my gosh, what if he could have been the one, right? Like, because I was chalking it up to the fact that we had such strong chemistry that first day of meeting each other that maybe I messed it up. Like, maybe yada yada yada. So okay, whatever. What happened? Okay, so I ended up, oh my gosh, no, I got the story messed up. Hold on. I did meet him at the coffee shop, but that was the second time me meeting him there. Okay, let me get it right. Okay, the first time we met, me and Clarence met, it was me leaving some store and we just ran into each other on the streets of Dorchester in Boston. And he said a couple of words. It was cute. We did exchange numbers at that time because, again, at that time, subconsciously, I knew me and Leprechaun Bay was about to break up. And that was that. When he texted me, I said to him, hey, just letting you know I do have a boyfriend. Let's just keep it platonic. Shortly after me and Leprechaun Bay break up, I want to say a good month or two later, I'm at that coffee shop that I said earlier, right? So this is how it really went. It's now coming back to me. I'm at that coffee shop, minding my business, just blending in with gentrification. And Clarence walks in, and instantly I make eye contact with him, and I remember him. And I'm like, oh, that's the guy from 2 months ago who I met on the streets. And we had a nice chemistry, and I told him, hey, even though I accepted his number, I said, hey, I have a boyfriend. And he tried to play it off like he wasn't really interested. Anyway, I met him again at the coffee shop. He was like, he smiled real big, and I could tell that I don't think he remembered me, but I don't know, we just ended up connecting again, right? At that time, I was finally single, fresh out of that relationship with Leprechaun Bay, and now it's me and Clarence, right? So me and Clarence are now freely texting each other, me doing so without any guilt, right? And he's texting, whatever. So now it's a couple of days in. My God, today. It's a couple of days in. What happens? It's a couple of days in, and he and I'm over his apartment. It's crazy, because it's like, why am I even at this man's house? But at that time, again, I'm early 20s. Anyway, I was over his apartment. He had a roommate, this Hispanic roommate guy. Oh, did I describe Clarence to y'all? I'm sorry. Clarence is a black man. Again, Clarence is not his real name. I don't remember his real name, but his real name was like an old school type of name, like Clarence. So that's why I'm giving him the name Clarence. Clarence is from Chicago, actually. If you know why I'm laughing, you know why I'm laughing. Clarence is from Chicago. Clarence is from Chicago. I'm gonna try my best to remember his name. I'm gonna ask someone if you have any idea. But anyway, Clarence is from Chicago. Clarence is a black man, tall, like brown skin, like me, beautiful white, like big teeth, big white teeth, big smile, thick lips, thick hair, thick black hair. Like, he just looked like a Clarence, which is why I'm saying Clarence. But anyway, that's a little background on him. He's from Chicago. He moved to Boston shortly from that time period from when I met him. So he was still kind of new to Boston. And so I'm trying to get to know him. And he's not really telling me much, right? Which is red flag. He's not really telling me much about himself. Instead, he's showering me with compliments. Red fucking flag. Flag on the field, flag. Showering me with, I really, look, I don't know if it's an insecurity thing. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I know I'm a beautiful woman, right? Like, I know I have these amazing, like, I'm good on myself. And yes, I have moments of insecurity. Got it. But when someone is showering someone with compliments so heavy, and I'm not talking about compliments like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. It's like, he was saying things that was so dramatic. You're the most beautiful I've ever, like, and again, it's not to say I don't feel that way, right, about myself, but it's like, relax, nigga. Like, it just felt very fake. But again, this is me saying this now as this more wise, more established woman. But back then, I was like, that was nice to hear. It was nice to hear beautiful every 30 seconds. It was nice to hear that. And so he would shower me with compliments all the time. He just made me feel like I was like the one. And he kept on like, not only was it compliments on my physical body, but it was compliments on some like, I want to marry you type thing. Like literally he said that to me. He was like, I want to marry you. You know, we should get married, y'all. He said that. It was a week in. He said to me, we should get married. Red flag on the field. Flag on the field. We should get married. You know, you will make a great wife. Just like so heavy, right? Just heavy stuff. But I'm soaking it up. I'm like, okay, let's get married. My God, if I didn't grow up, like if I didn't have two parents in my life who loved and cared about me and was like really protective of me, my dumb ass probably would have gotten married to him a week in. I really do think I could have. But I feel like my foundation is so strong that didn't happen. Anyway, so he's showering me with compliments, like super heavy. And I'm just like that's like a lot of our conversation. It was about how much he likes me, how much he values me, and how beautiful I am, and all this stuff. And he's kissed, like we're kissing, you know, we're like into. Well, no, we didn't have sex. Yeah, no, we did not have sex. Thank God. But we was definitely making out. We was definitely making out. But that was it. Like he didn't hit me out. He did. Oh, anyway, let's move on. We didn't have sex. So anyway, I'm remembering some things that I am choosing not to share. Because like I said, I suppressed his memories. So I'm going to continue on. That's why I'm like kind of pausing. But anyway, we're making out. He's like showering me with compliments. And I'm realizing like, I don't really know much about you. Like, tell me about yourself. So then he tells me the little bit that he does. He says he's from Chicago and he's from a big family in Chicago. And his family in Chicago is very well known, apparently. And I mean, that's a red flag too, right? But apparently his family in Chicago is very well known. His grandmother or his mother was a big drug queen. Kingpin, you know what I mean, but like the female version. She was very well known for trafficking drugs, for dealing drugs in the streets. Like she was that girl back then. And he was telling me about like different people in his family. He has one family member who is a transgender, and this was before the times of what we're living in now, how transgenderism is more common. Yet back then when he was telling me this, I was like so taken aback, like, oh my gosh, really? He's like, yeah, I have one of those. And so he was saying that to me, and he was just describing me just kind of where he came from, the ilk of where he came from. And I just feel like, not to sound judgmental, because I don't like to judge people for their upbringing, their background. And I'm not gonna judge him for his transgender aunt, right? Like, okay. But him kind of talking about his drug dealer kingpin grandmother, the way that he was talking about it was done with so much glee. Like he was saying it like, yeah, that's like just proud. And again, I'm not judging that. The times could have called for that circumstance to be what it was, but I just think about like, maybe it makes sense that he turned out to be a con artist, right? He grew up and saw people just continuously not abiding by the law, doing illegal things, and so that's second nature to him. You know what I'm saying? Like if you grew up with drug dealers, not to say you will be a drug dealer, but it's to say that you have ideas of how to con the system. You have knowledge and you probably have no fucks of doing so, right? In comparison to someone who probably grew up in the church. Not to say people who grew up in the church are like so sanctified, but there's a difference. Like in the foundation that you are brought up in, I feel like you're more likely to do something else in that lane. Anyway, so it wasn't a surprise to me nonetheless, okay? Nonetheless, it was not a surprise to me that he turned out to be a con artist. So he tells me a little bit about himself, and that's the information that I get, and that's like pretty much it. What happened? So he then suddenly, I remember one time we're in my car. I don't remember these moments. Like, I don't know why I got in his car, but I met up with him, or he met up in my car. It was something. No, he was in my car. Yeah, he was in my car. And I was driving him somewhere, and he had to like pick up something from a store. And I'm in my car, just like chilling, whatever. And he comes back in the car with his laptop, and he's like typing something or doing something on his laptop. I'm just trying to understand, like, what the fuck is he doing? Whatever. It's like, okay, whatever. He's on his laptop. So then he then tells me that, what does he say? He's like, oh, he works at the building over there. Like, he works at this building in downtown in Boston, and his building it's like shutting down or something. Some bullshit story he told me. Like, the building is, his office space is not going to be his anymore, and he needs some money. He's like, my office space is not going to be mine anymore, and I'm going to need some money to hold it down for longer. And he didn't have that money to do so. So he's like, prior to him even just getting the gall to ask me for money, he's creating this like scenario or just story of not having the funds to continue his business, and he needs to continue his business, and he's in marketing. That's what he told me. He's in marketing. And I feel like if you're a marketer, I feel like it's another red flag. Like, you're a scammer, right? Like, that's, hello? Anyway, so he tells me that. And again, I like him a lot for whatever reason. At this point, like, you're not really giving me much, but you're showering me with compliments. You're making me feel good. Okay, you need help, right? So he then asked me, if you could just if I could just borrow $500. He says specifically $500 from me so that he could hold on to his office space in the building that he works at. And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, whatever you need, sure, I could do that. I could help. No way. He asked for $1,000 actually, and I said I can't give you $1,000, but I can give you $500. And he was like, "Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great too." And I feel like that's another red flag, because it's like, why are you so quick to say that's great? Like, how much did you really need? Were you saying 1,000 has like a cover up, and you really needed 500, or you wanted to see how much I'll be able to give you out of that request initially? Anyway, I offered 500 instead of the 1,000 that he asked for. He's like so happy. He kisses me, and it's like this moment of like, we're in this together. Yo, it was this moment of we're in this together. Like, Maxine, what the fuck? And when I was telling my cousins this and my sisters this at this time, they literally like, it was, and thank God for that foundation of my sister, of my cousins. Like, we was in a group chat at the time. And so when I shared this with them, their reaction popped the bubble that I was in, popped this fantasy bubble that I created for myself. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? So yeah, I told them about it, and they was like, Mama, that's what they call me. I don't like this. This doesn't sound right. Like, he sounds suspicious. And so I'm like, you know what? That does sound right. Like, I don't know. I don't think. And I was like, at the very least, like, say if he's not a con artist, at the very least, I don't feel comfortable bringing money into our relationship or whatever it is. Because it's like 2 weeks at this point. I don't feel comfortable just bringing money involved because I don't fucking know you like that. And I feel like money gets things just, it messes things up sometimes, and I would rather that not happen. Like, you know, don't you have any other family members you could talk to, or just a family member you could talk to, or ask, you know, your roommate, your, like, why are you asking me for money? I just think it's so weird to me. Like, why are you asking me for money? We just met. Like, I don't even know you like that. So then I tell him, I was like, hey, you know, I'm sorry that you're going through a hard time with your office space, but I won't be able to give you that 500 anymore because I don't feel like that's appropriate right now, as early as we are in this relationship. He instantly flipped on me, y'all. Like, he was like, wow, you're so fake, you know, I knew you was fake from the, or like, just instantly just kind of deteriorate who I was at the time, like my character, just beating me down, right? And I'm like, damn, that was quick, right? And instantly when he did that, like, on top of me telling my cousins and my sister at the time about what was happening, my sister at the time, it sounded like I was saying my sister at the time, but at the time of this was happening, I was telling them, that was one moment that helped pop me out of that bubble. And then when I finally told him, and his reaction to me saying, hey, I don't think it's a good idea, it's too fresh in our relationship, or whatever the fuck this was, and his reaction to me, as violent as it was emotionally, that was enough for me to realize, oh, you're crazy. Like, oh shit, oh my, I just dodged a bullet. Oh my God. So I instantly woke up. And I was like remembering different moments in our time together. I remember prior to him asking me for money, there was a time when I rode with him, or I dropped him off. It was something. I was driving my car. He never had his own car, y'all. I was driving my car, and I picked him up from somewhere. And he said, hey, you know, can you also give someone else a lift for me? I'm gonna go to her house. Y'all, it's crazy, right? So I'm like, okay, like, we're already at this like pizza spot. He gets in the car. This older woman gets in the car as well. She gets in the back of the car, and no, she doesn't get in my car. No, she's in her own car. I follow that car because he's apparently doing business with her. And this is an older woman, like, this, probably in her 50s at the time. So we drive to her house. I walk with him like a business couple does. Like, what? I'm walking with him into this new house that I've never been in, right? And this is the house of this 50-year-old woman. And he's promising, like, he's presenting a deal to her. And so he starts talking to her about her light bill, y'all. Her light bill. He's like, yeah, you know, I know you want to save money. You know, it's a great way to save money if you just sign up with us on this light bill, and then you'll be able to save $20 more or $35 more on your light bill because you transition with us. And he wasn't saying us as me and him. It was us as in his business and his business partners or whatever. And so he was like just saying this random things like light bill savings, huh? And I remember at that time I was hearing things about that scam, like how people would come to the house of other people and present this deal to them, like, hey, I could save you money on your light bill. I could save you money on your electricity bill. I could save you money on your phone bill if you just sign with us. There's a scam to that. So because he's so charismatic, because he has this very engaged, like, oh my God, like, I really could have been swindled. But I mean, thank God to my foundation, I wasn't, you know. But me connecting with these ladies on this show, on this documentary, Tinder Swindler, I get it. Like, I get how you could just get wrapped up into the fantasy until you realize, hey, this doesn't add up. And sometimes people realize it later than others. And thank God I realized it before I even withdrew any amount of money to give to this man, to give to Clarence. So I was remembering that moment. I'm like, yeah, that didn't feel like a genuine moment. I felt kind of scammy. Like, it just felt off. Like, I'm sitting at this woman's kitchen table and he's talking to her about saving money on the light bill. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you save her money in her light bill? Like, I'll be asking this common sense questions and it just didn't make sense. But I kept my mouth shut. But I was thinking this in that moment. But I kept my mouth shut and I was trying to make that make sense in my head, but it didn't make sense. It did not make sense. In that moment, I remember she agreeing to whatever deal it was. I think she gave him her information and we left the house. And I got in my car and he was like ecstatic. Like, he was kind of like chipper and just like, it felt like he got an adrenaline rush, right? Here's another red flag that came in. So as soon as we walked out, y'all, I walked into my car because I'm thinking, okay, you're coming into the car. We're going to head somewhere else, right? Oh my gosh. So oh my gosh, another memory just popped up. I'm going to tell you in a moment if I remember. Yo, we had so many different moments that just made me realize this is strange. So anyway, so he leaves the house, right? I'm in the car. I go straight to the car because that's the next step, right? You go in the car, we drive somewhere else. We drive home, well, to his house, whatever. He goes to the back of the house and he's taking something out of his coat, of his like jean pocket. And what happened? So he's taking weed out. And he's like, you know, putting in the paper thing. He's rolling it up, and then he's like smoking it. He's like he's getting such a kick out of it. I'm like, damn, nigga, is it coke or weed? Well, I mean, is it coke or weed? Hello, is your grandma involved in this one? Like, relax. Like, he was just so antsy for that weed, for that hit, and he got it in that moment. But I just thought to myself, that's strange. Like, why is he acting like that? Why is he smoking in the back of this woman's house who he just potentially closed a deal with? Like, that's a little unprofessional, you think? It just felt really weird, right? So anyway, that was just a moment that I remembered that made me realize, yeah, I don't think I want to give him my $500. That doesn't sound like just a credible thing to do. Like, it doesn't really sound like a good idea. So yeah, when I told him no, he flipped out on me. Excuse me. And that was more of a reason why I was happy with my decision to say no. And it made me realize, oh my gosh, he's just like creating a scam to get money off of this older woman. And it just made me sad. Like, damn, there are people out here who prey on other people. Like, aside from, like, you know, we know people who prey on people sexually, and, you know, rape is really more about control than it is sexual pleasure. But I feel like financial predatory type of behavior is just as disgusting. I think it's like you're like beyond a bum. Like, at least with bums on the street, they're asking you for money straight up because obviously they're in a circumstance where they need money to get out of it, right? And they need sobriety to get, right? They need sobriety too. But aside from that, they need money to get out of it. Like, you kind of know what it is straight up. But when you're dealing with a scammer, a con artist, it's so it's so deceptive because you think the person is not who they say or who they show you to be later on. You think they're a little bit more credible than they appear. And they're not. They're not. I remember we went out, I think it was our first date. We went to this like seafood spot and it was time for the bill. He takes money out of his shoe. Y'all, I wish I could make this up. I'm not making. He took money out of his sock. Y'all. He didn't go in his back pocket. He didn't go in his phone. It was before Apple Pay was more of a thing than it is now. No. He went in his fucking shoe. He went under his sock and took out wads of cash. Like, at this point, I would rather you just be a drug dealer. At least that's a little bit more respectable. I mean, which one are you selling? I would rather you do that. Because this whole con game of, hey, I could save you money on your light bill is for the birds. At least as a drug dealer, I know you're making guap, right? I know you're making money. Like, when I was with Boston Bay, he never asked me for money. I remember one time I was trying to show him appreciation. I was like, oh, I'll pay for our brunch today. And he didn't like that. I still paid for, I still just pushed on with the paid for it. But I remember he was kind of turned off. Like, what? Because he's such a man's man that he was the one who foot the bill. He just understood that to be a part of the character of a man. But with Clarence, on our first date, had I been like, oh, no, I got it, no worries, he would have been, oh, okay, girl, go ahead. He would have been so for it because he's a bum. He's lower than a bum. Niggas who try to scam people by saying, I could get you money on your light bill, it's bum behavior. It's giving bum. So again, Tinder Swindler. That is my con artist dating story. And to just be mindful, you guys, we cannot, first of all, just don't, just wake up. I get it. Age plays a factor. And, sometimes you're going to be a fool because of your age. That just comes with the territory, right? But I just encourage people to just really lean on your foundation. If you have a strong foundation in your family, lean on them. Sometimes their foundation in you could really save you from trouble. It could really save you from losing money and losing your own self-respect and integrity. Oh my gosh. And I just thank God I didn't give him my $500. I don't know. That was just a time in my life. And for him to switch up on me, I was so hurt, right? I was so hurt in that moment. And I was like, oh my gosh, I guess nothing that he said to me was real. I guess he didn't really want to marry me. And, I seemed like a wife to him. And it just made me realize, oh, he said all those things for a reason. It was manipulative. It was his way to get me. It was love bombing, right? It was his way to get me to fall in love with him easily. And in doing so, I could be just a bank for him, right? I could be the one who saves him financially and all these things. I was that. And that was his way to get me there, to get me to fall for it because, oh, I'm going to love bomb her down. And I remember when he told me he's in marketing, it just didn't make any sense to me because he never told me what. What the fuck are you, what does that even mean? What are you marketing for? Are you at a company marketing for them? Are you the head of marketing? It was very vague. So that's another red flag. When someone tells you what they do for a living and they say it in such a vague manner, that's a red flag. Just be clear. I just want to give the definition of love bombing for those who may not be familiar. Love bombing is an attempt to influence a person by demonstrations of affection and attention. It can be used in different ways and for either positive or negative purposes. Obviously, this case was for negative purposes. Psychologists have identified love bombing as a possible part of a cycle of abuse and have warned against it. Okay, so that is love bombing. Be wary of that. And what's interesting about love bombing is I think about how he love bombed me in that time and how I was so ecstatic with it, right? Like, I think if you're not someone who is fully just establishing your identity and your confidence, then you are a target. You are a target to fall for the love bombing tricks that a manipulator, a narcissist, a con artist will do. And there was another moment in our time together that made me look at him with a side eye. I remember we was in my car because, again, he didn't have his own car. He didn't have a car. So we was in my car for our first date. I was driving and he was in the passenger seat. And I'm driving. The way I drive, I'm very, at least at that time, I was an aggressive driver. I stood in my lane. I drove slow, but not too slow. Like, I was within the limit. Now shit's changed. Like, I gotta get there now. But anyway, I was driving, and then 10 and 2, both hands on the wheel. Like, I was pretty much, I was a good driver. As I was driving, there was a car behind me that was a little too close to the bumper of my car. And Clarence, what is this man's real name? I don't remember. But anyway, Clarence was guiding me. He was in the passenger seat guiding me. He was saying, oh, make sure when you're driving, you just stay in this miles per hour limit, because if you let the guy behind you feel like he could get one up on you for being like tailgating you, then he's going to win, basically. So he was just like giving me pointers while I was driving, and he's like, oh, make sure when you're driving you put this on, put the flasher on at this point, or don't fall for the tricks of the other driver if they get too close to you. Like, he was guiding me. I didn't ask you a question, right? Like, I didn't ask for that, yet he was doing that the whole time on our way to the seafood dinner spot on our first date. And I was so ticked in my head. But again, I'm younger and I was just excited that this guy who's love bombing me is into me, and let me just tuck this away. Let me just not pay attention to this. It's not a big deal. But I do remember that moment, and I remember how I felt in that moment, and I remember how the energy in my car felt negative. And this is, I'm saying red flag, right? All the times I said red flag, I'm saying in jest, right? I'm saying it in honesty still, right? I think niggas 5'5" and flashy, I still think that's a red flag, right? Like, I don't care how funny it may come across. I'm still saying watch out, right? But I think here there's a level of danger that I was getting privy to, but I just couldn't understand it yet until I finally did. And I felt uncomfortable in my own car because I felt like he was being controlling. I sensed a level of control that he was trying to just bestow upon me and my driving in my car. Nigga, you get a car then, huh? You get a car then and follow the rules that you're telling me to follow. So that rubbed me the wrong way. But again, I tucked it in because I was just into him and I was just like trying to just, go with the flow. So that just bothered me. And then, at the date, at the spot that we went to, him taking out the money, the cash dollar bill, y'all, from his shoe. That was something else that I noticed, and I just tucked it away. Like, okay, well, some people don't carry wallets. Some people don't carry wallets. What's the big deal? But anyway, all of those are big deals. And I think love bombing, as I just read the definition of, that is a part of the abusive cycle. That is a part of just getting the person who you're trying to just be in control over to fall under this trap of, oh, he loves me, and he cares about me, and he just wants to be with me. And, had I been someone without a strong foundation under me, I would have fell for the okie doke. I would have been by his side, proposing a deal to vulnerable 50-year-olds talking about, do you want to save money on your light bill? Do you want to go to jail? Hello, do you want to go to jail? So anyway, that is my story of almost being swindled. My just cautionary tale. I thank God it didn't go further. I thank God he didn't physically attack me, but the moments of just danger, emotional danger that could have led to something. Oh, and there was another moment. Oh my God, I remember being in his apartment. He bought groceries, and he just said, he handed me the groceries. He's like, "Oh, I want you to cook for me." Y'all, I can't make this shit up. He's like, "I want you to cook for me. I want, let's see how you are in the kitchen." Because I remember before that moment, I think I was talking him down about, like, not down, but like I was like, not down in a negative way, but I was just saying how, like, I'm good in the kitchen and I know how to cook. And, like, people say that, right? And though I mean it, don't fucking test me. Like, what? Like, you really bought groceries for me to cook for you right now? Like, it just was too soon. I feel like it could have been a cute gesture had I been in control of that gesture. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if we already established having date night and I said, "Oh, I want to cook for you," or, "Oh, we should cook together," or something like that, then that would have been different. But the way that it was set up, it was, he literally bought groceries, handed me the groceries, and said, "I want you to cook for me." And of course, with me being 23, 24, Anyway, so I ended up cooking for him or whatever. And I remember he left the apartment, came back a little bit later in time for the food to be eaten and devoured. He said something to me. He was like, excuse me, sorry. What did he say? He was like, he was describing what type of relationship he wants and how he wants that relationship to look like and what type of marriage he wants. And he was saying, like, for us, he wants to be in control. He said something very specific, and I wish I could remember, but again, I suppressed this memory because this was just a time in my life I just did not want to keep on having on my forefront in my mind. But for the sake of this conversation, I brought it up. But I can't remember what he said specifically, but he did say to me along the lines of, he has to say so. Like, it's my way or the highway. And when he said that to me, mind you, I just finished feeding him, quote unquote, literally. And it could have been a cute moment, right? Like, "Oh, you're eating the food that I made for you, that I cooked for you, and you're enjoying it." Instead, he took it upon himself to take this moment and make it so serious. He looked me in my eye and said, "This is what I am looking for in a relationship, in a marriage." Because again, at that time, even though it was just 2 weeks, or at that point a week in, he was already proposing marriage to me. He was like, "I want to have, I want the say so. I want the final say so. And it's my way or the highway." All that stereotypical thing that controlling men say. That's literally what he said in that moment. And he just got very serious. Like, his tone just shifted. And in my head, in that moment, Oh my gosh. I was feeling afraid. I'm sorry. I'm fine right now, but I'm remembering how I was feeling in that moment. And there was a slight terror that came upon me, y'all. I kid you not. A slight terror crept up on me as he was saying this to me. And I was feeling afraid because, one, I'm in this man's house, in his apartment. Two, he has a roommate, this Hispanic roommate. Not to say about Hispanics, but I'm just saying, like, this Hispanic roommate, a foot away, who, God forbid, I don't know this man. I just met him a couple of days ago. I'm silly Maxine in this motherfucker's house, in his apartment. Make that very clear, because it was definitely an apartment. And I was just so naive enough to put myself in that position where I could have been harmed. I could have been attacked, like, at an instant, right? Like, and that's when I felt that terror, because prior to me going over, or even just prior to him saying that to me, I was still in this la headspace. Like, oh, this guy, he's showering me with compliments and he wants to marry me. I just felt so naive and just stuck in that headspace that I was oblivious to the possible terror of being in this random guy's house who has a male roommate who could, at any chance, do whatever they could to me. And it was in that moment when he said those words to me that he wants to have the final say so, and it's his way or the highway, basically. I thought to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what just happened? Like, everything literally just shifted in that experience. The whole la feeling, I just felt instantly terrified. And me being just the woman that I was at that time, I thought to myself, like, okay, well, I can't act afraid, right? Like, that's a survivor technique that I heard or read about, that if you're in the moment of being attacked, you kind of have to play along with the attacker. Like, I'm not afraid. Like, I want this too. Like, I want to get raped too. Like, unfortunately, that's the game you have to play with the attacker, because otherwise the attacker's going to realize, oh, she knows that I'm going to attack her right now. Oh, I'm going to freak out and go ahead and attack her, right? As if I think it's cute. Oh, I think it's so cute that you want to control everything. I think it's cute that you brought me groceries and handed me the groceries and said, hey, cook for me. Then he, as the attacker, wouldn't feel obliged to attack me. Does that make sense? Like, it's a mind game. It really is a mind game. And so me in that moment, like, just learning about that survivor technique, I thought to myself, okay, well, let me just smile at him and act like it's cool, right? And instead of me, like, running out of here or just making an excuse like, hey, I gotta go, let me just stay here for 30 minutes extra. Honestly, I stayed there for a good 30 minutes extra to kind of act like I'm cool, I'm good, I'm not afraid. Like, no, you're not making me feel afraid right now. To kind of play the role. And, thank God nothing happened, but instantly, I just feel like, if you're in an environment with a man who has, naturally the man has the upper hand, right? Regardless. But he has more the upper hand when you're in his space, and he has a male roommate who, got, like, what if they were in on it? Some bullshit. But I just think instantly when you're in that moment and you feel a shift in the atmosphere, I think it's so easy to say, run, get out. But you have to just be smart about it. Like, there's a way to handle the situation so that you could leave it unharmed, unscathed. Like, sometimes you have to play the role. Sometimes you have to act like oh, I'm good. Sometimes you do. In order for you to be left alone, unscathed, and unraped, right? So, I praise God that nothing happened to me, but that was a scary moment. So like all these moments that came back to me in the time that we were together, all these moments came back to me, and it made me realize once I told him, hey, I'm not going to give you the $500 anymore, it just solidified that for me. It made me realize, okay, I made the right decision. I really needed to make that decision, and I'm happy I did, because boom, look at what I went through in this short amount of time. Whew, my God, today. But anyway, I hope this story, this experience of mine, the documentary Tinder Swindler on Netflix, I hope it just serves as a cautionary tale for any woman listening to just be careful. Just be careful. On that note, I'm going to end it here. Thank you again for listening. And if you want to just sound off on anything that I shared, please click the link in the show notes where you can leave a voice message for no more than a minute long, and I will share that on the podcast and respond to you. We'll just have like somewhat of a conversation. So yeah, again, thank you so much for listening, and please continue to tell a friend, share this podcast, like this podcast, make sure you're subscribed to whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. Leave a comment, leave a review. I know I say that at the end of my podcast, like in the outro, but in case people leave earlier than that, I really encourage anyone who hasn't yet to leave a review on any platform, Apple Podcasts specifically, preferably. I would love for you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify and Anchor. If you're listening to it on Anchor, on the app Anchor, that'd be great. So thank you again for listening, and I will check in with you all next time. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. Be sure to leave a review, give me 5 stars, and of course, subscribe. Also, follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram at God Built This Pod. God bless.